Hi everyone, today I'll share some key advice that will definitely improve your chances of surviving in Outbreak. First, we'll go over the basics of tricking and dodging, then we'll look at when and where to move your camera to gather as much information as possible. Finally, we'll cover some tips on managing your path. Alright, let's start with some theory. Here's your car. You need to understand the concept of the traction circle. This diagram helps visualize how the car's weight is distributed across the four wheels. Constant speed, turning right, shifts more weight onto the left wheels, placing you here on the circle. If you accelerate at 100% while also turning at 100%, you go beyond the circle. This means you're demanding more grip than your tires can provide, resulting in understeer or oversteer, neither of which is optimal. The straighter your wheels are, the more you can brake or accelerate. Now let's go back to Dirt 3. Here's your car and you need to understand this. Depending on your speed, your car will turn more or less. For example, you can take this corner at 100 km per hour and this one at 50 km per hour using 100% of your grip. This means you can't get in this zone because of too much speed and not enough grip. As a survivor in Outbreak, here's the weak spot of the infected chasing you. The inside of their turn is your safe zone. It's exactly like spectators of rally. They place themselves in the inside of the corner to be safe. When you're being chased, let's assume you're both at the same speed. The infected can try to cut your next corner if they predict it well, or they can wait to see where you turn and follow your line. If the infected gets too close, they remove your option to brake, which limits your available routes and forces you into mistakes. Before that happens, you need to trick them. Creating distance is essential to stay in control of your path and your decisions. Here's how to trick at higher speed. You need to misalign your car, creating an opportunity to brake sharply and position yourself in your opponent's weak spot where they can't turn effectively. Usually, a quick left-right movement is enough to misalign cars due to reaction time. You must constantly monitor both your speed and your opponent's speed. More speed means less grip for turning, so you have to evaluate your options in real time. If you want to trick at lower speed, more for fun or style, stay on the side of the infected while they try to get you in front of them. Eventually, they may succeed or attempt to cut your path. At that point, you have several options. If you're far enough to the side, you can try a quick reverse or not and make them hesitate. It's all about timing. Too little distance leads to failure. Too much gives them time to recover. The complexity of your trick depends on the time you have. Also, if your cars are parallel but misaligned, reversing can help you reach their weak spot. To sum up, manage your speed to maximize grip, control your distance from infected cars, misaligned vehicles, and target weak spots when needed. Now, if multiple cars are chasing you, a group effect comes into play. Each of them wants to score, so they often approach too fast, focusing on your next move. You can exploit this by making your intention obvious, then changing direction at the last moment. Because of the group effect, they're more likely to fall for it. Again, it's all about timing. Of course, all of this assumes you have full control of your car and are constantly using the camera to track infected positions. Now let's drive around the map and see where to move the camera to anticipate common cuts. Sometimes when visibility is low and no one is chasing you, you can almost stop the car and look around before moving, just to make sure the path is clear. Other times you don't need to move the camera, you just need to look in the right direction. Now let's talk about the map and how to manage your route based on the information you have about infected cars. First, there are areas I recommend avoiding because they reduce your escape options, limit your dodging space, and make your path predictable. For example, going down into Waterfront is very risky, only 3 exits, obvious choices, narrow spaces, poor visibility. Overall too dangerous. Maybe it's worth going there in the final seconds to secure survival, since it's often empty. Some other spots also have limited exits or can become dead ends, forcing you into risky situations. The parking lot has obvious danger zones and the big jump in power station should be avoided. It leads to narrow exits or risky landings. Looking at the map as a whole, there's a circular route around it, with narrow sections in depot and contact zones between waterfront and parking lot. This is the fastest path but also the most predictable. At the center lies power station, often used by infected to cut you off. Parking lot offers wide space, while waterfront can be a secondary option. Depot and power station contain tighter areas with ramps and elevation changes. To survive, you must adapt your route based on how many infected there are and where they are. At the start of a round, stay in wide areas with good visibility and avoid risks until you identify the first infected. Once you know his position, you can decide whether to stay in open space or move into tighter areas. Wide areas are safe with only 2 to 3 infected, but infected players tend to focus on ground-level cars. If several chase you, you'll be forced to dodge more, increasing risk. Staying too long in wide areas can actually be dangerous, as it's easier to reach, implying being chased more often. Keep 2 key ideas in mind. The harder you are to reach, the more time you gain, and survival is about minimizing risk. To reduce risk, you need information, where infected are, and distance, to avoid constant tricking. For example, if there are 6 infected and you don't know where they are, stay in a wide area until you spot at least 4. You have to count them and anticipate where the others might cut you off. Then move into narrow sections. Not only is staying in open space too risky with 4 infected, but narrow paths force infected players to interfere with each other, slowing them down. From there, try to stay on elevated areas like the first level of power station. Being near the center gives you more options and makes your movement less predictable. When pressure increases, go down or escape into a wide area, then repeat the cycle, a track split, reposition and gain time. Speed also matters. Most of the time, you should drive as it was for a world record. Driving at maximum speed makes you harder to catch and can help you avoid cuts by small margins. However, reducing speed gives you more grip and control, making dodging safer. This balance is situational and changes every game, but never let infected get too close. Finally, your positioning must be precise. In most cases, you shouldn't drive in the middle of a path. Instead, choose a side or take the very inside line to optimize your movement. There's much more to say about this complex game mode, but this is already a lot. Think of this as a theoretical foundation to help you understand the game and start improving your skills. These tips come from my experience and perspective, but I still don't survive most of my rounds, so you'll need to develop your own approach, at least until I find the magic formula. I hope you enjoyed this guide. Thanks for watching and see you soon.
You are the last man standing.